chat, I have returned.
Hello.
We're back. Hopefully you guys had a great week last week. I had a great week last week.
I think I have the wrong headphones.
You do have the wrong headphones.
I told Manny's.
You stole Manny. But how's Manny going to hear the show then?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm back. I was on vacation last week. I have returned, and I was looking at our vacation calendar, and we don't get another official work holiday until Memorial Day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we got until May before we get an official day off. So that's kind of a long stretch here.
Yeah, today is what?
Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
That's
so we do not get that as a day off on our holiday schedule. But I just broke.
Oh no!
We're off to a good start.
Yeah, it's a Monday. It's fine.
I'm just gonna have to hold this, I guess. I don't know. So we are we do not have Martin Luther King Day off, but hopefully everyone who is at home and does have Martin Luther King Day off is enjoying their time. I'm gonna try and fix this. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So what has happened recently? So we got Discordia Aspect should be live for everyone now. So if you haven't had a chance yet to hop in and play Discordia Aspect, go ahead. It's a kind of a true int ADC type of playstyle where the build path that actually requires you to go int. So leverages some different items and some traditional ADC builds that you've been trying. So should be a lot of fun how that's going. And then this last week was definitely one of the rougher, I think, patch releases that we've had. But our team worked really, really hard to fix a lot of issues, and we should be in a much better state now. And we actually had one of our best weekends we've had in a really long time.
Yeah, so sorry that it was a bit of a rough patch, but I'm glad that the team was able to get things together. And yeah, we did. We set a recent high for our Steam CCU. We don't really talk about our internal numbers, but everybody can see, Steam numbers because Steam shares them. So it seems like things are trending in the right direction. People are enjoying the game, and game is going well. Apologies that it was a bit of a rough day. A lot of the issues were related to some kind of behind the scenes movement stuff we were doing, correct?
Yeah.
I don't know how much we talked about this publicly.
Yeah, so it's related to some of the movement stuff that we've been working on the movement system, specifically related to a lot of movement speed over time. It's funny, I don't think we've said this yet, but you can blame Inbound for sending a bug report about Amateros that kicked this off about 2 months ago, where we found some stuff that was wrong with how movement speed over time stacked. And the fix for that was a pretty involved fix, and it was related to why we did the kind of movement speed system here. But it's also lays a good foundation for a lot of the other movement stuff that we want to be doing in the future. It's really, really like movement networking and correcting all that is a complicated beast. So definitely appreciate everyone sticking around and working through the issues, and we tried our best to be as responsive as we could for what we broke. And hopefully going forward, we'll have a much more smooth experience.
Yeah. And I think that obviously we don't like to have a rough hour of, because, everybody's going out, not everybody has a ton of time to play.
Right.
And it sucks. If the one time you get to play, everything is garbage, right?
Yeah.
So we don't like that. But I think it is, if there's going to be bad that results in future good, that is the best kind of bad. I hate when it's like something broke and we will learn nothing from this and we will gain no long-term benefit from it. But when it's like something broke because we were trying to make something better for the long haul, slightly more acceptable. So anyway, quick little run through of the week, because I'm still getting my feet back under me. I got back to my house at 9:00 last night.
Oh wow, that's
late.
And
my flight was delayed, so I got back late, and then I pretty much immediately went to sleep, and then I woke up and I came to work, and I've been catching up on things. So we do have a patch note show on Wednesday, because things never stop.
Yep.
So on Wednesday,
keep going.
On Wednesday, we will be going through Chiron in all of his glory, as well as a bunch of other interesting stuff. This has turned into, I don't know, from a balance side, because we haven't talked about balance yet since I got back, but there's some interesting stuff on the cosmetic side. There's some interesting just kind of other stuff that I think people will have fun with.
Yeah, there's some UI feedback stuff that Charlie was able to get in that I'm super excited for. Just lots of small things adding up. I guess for balance, I can just give a little bit of a spoiler. It's a lot more of a kind of mixed bag of we're trying to address, we're buffing things that are underwhelming, we're nerfing things that are overperforming. It's not a super big here's a directional shift in this patch, but it should be a decent sized patch for just some new stuff. The closest thing we're looking at is strength build and the reliance on some of the like proc items and trying to shift a little bit of the strength around there. We think that the 80 versus strength split actually went pretty well on the items overall. Mm-hmm. So we're just kind of looking to just kind of refine some more stuff there. That's probably like the biggest thing, but it's not like a major, like, it's not like a big like anti-heal pass effort to do that right now.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So we will have that coming up on Wednesday, and then on Friday, we will have the full balance show. So, and then we have a patch again next Tuesday because it never stops. So, and when I'm gone for a week, then it feels like it really doesn't stop because we're just right back into it. Chiron aspect teaser. Didn't we already have a Chiron aspect teaser? No, I guess we did the Discordia one that was balls.
Yeah, the Discordia one was balls. What would Chiron's aspect one? Chiron's aspect is harder, I think, to make one word. I have to think about that.
Okay.
Because like
we'll noodle on that.
Yeah, we'll think about it. That could be something Cass can come up with.
And do you think the next god is going to be in PTS?
I mean, I don't see any reason not to.
Do you want to spoil who the next god is going to be? Normally we would do like more of like a roadmap. I know we've been prepping and be like, we're going to do a roadmap show. Don't worry, guys. But I would say I'm going to give you guys two reasons why we have not done the roadmap show yet. The first one is because we were doing this survey to find out what gods people really want the most in the game, right? We started this survey in December, and we asked it in a couple different ways to try and get a better idea of community feedback about like what gods are we missing the most. And that survey led to some interesting results, which led to us shifting our priorities around a little bit, including like some things that are going to lead to us getting a little bit more away from we are going to dogmatically rotate through the 5 classes and just try and get a couple of these really highly demanded gods in sooner. So our roadmap itself has been a little bit more in flux for the next few patches as we're trying to like prioritize the things the community wants the most. So that's been one of the reasons. The other reason is I was on vacation. I didn't have time to put together a roadmap show for today. So probably, I don't know, sometime soon we will actually do a real roadmap show. But I think we do have to at least reveal who the next god is going to be after Chiron, because they're going to be in PTS.
Yeah, they'll be in PTS.
So people will get to see this god, and they'll get to play this god. Do you want to do the honors?
Yeah, I will. So the god coming after Chiron will be Naja.
Naja, the most demanded jungler on what we thought the results of the poll were going to be and on the actual results of the poll. Some of the things didn't align exactly with what our internal data might have suggested, but we were like, Naja is going to be super highly in demand, an interesting kind of unique play style. So I'm pretty excited. Also, I think we can reveal that he's going to be getting a little bit of a model overhaul as part of this too.
Yeah, some of that I have already seen. It's still work in progress. I think when we go to PTS, it'll probably still be work in progress. There's definitely some things that still need to be resolved with it, but it's overall looking really, really good. He already has his +1s in, so when you play Naja, he'll have his +1s. He also has his aspect in, but I don't know if we'll turn on aspect.
Yeah, usually
PTS.
we
generally don't.
Yeah.
Just to keep some things surprised, but the aspect's pretty fun too. I got to play out today.
Yes. Well, I don't know if it was fun to play again, but it was fun. I was playing a future god today, which I will not reveal, and you'll have to wait until the roadmap for that. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about Naja. I think that he is I think one of the most interesting things from like a totally unrelated to Smite perspective is that when we put Naja into Smite 1, I don't think most like non-Chinese people had ever heard of Naja.
Yeah, the Western audience was pretty like didn't really know.
But then I guess the animated movie went crazy recently, and people are like, "Oh yeah, everybody knows who this is." So it is interesting to see like how gods grow and fall in popularity. I'm sure that we'll see a lot of requests for Zhang Kui come out with the new the guys that made the Wukong game. They're making a Zhang game, but that's going to be years down the road probably at this point. So I think it's interesting to see the rise and fall of popularity in terms of just like name recognition of characters. I think it'll also just be able to be fun to see him in the game, offering his unique play style.
Yeah, his ult blueprint has been very fun to work on. It's
a little bit of a twist from the way the ult worked in Smite 1, I guess we can say.
It's pretty similar, but it should be. It's just there's a lot of moving pieces to that one. That one like actually is like technical implementation has been a lot.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So we're excited to bring Naja to Smite 2. We'll be showing off Chiron on Wednesday. You'll get to play Naja as part of PTS on Wednesday. And I don't know if we have anything else really to talk about today other than just seeing what people want to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of the other things I would want to talk about or even tease a little bit are like they're in flux enough that I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like say that we're looking at them right now and then we run into an issue that means that we can't for a while still. So like there's one I'm really excited for. Kilgan knows what I'm talking about, but like we have to even see if that works first.
Yes. I will say, so two questions I will pick out from chat to get us started. One, how was my vacation? Can we get a slideshow with fun vacation pictures? My vacation was great. It was wonderful to, get a little break. However, you will not get a slideshow because I don't want to put my wife and kids pictures up for everybody. So apologies. But it was nice. It's a good little trip.
It's good.
We actually, I told chat previously that I was going on a cruise and I was supposed to go to Aruba and Curacao, which are just like right off the coast of Venezuela. So I was concerned that given the geopolitical instability that we would.
I didn't even connect the pieces there.
Yeah, it's like, very close. And I was like, we're going to end up, sent somewhere else. We did actually get to go to Aruba and Curacao, so it was fun. So I will give chat that update. Beyond that, probably no more vacation updates. And somebody else was asking, why Neja and not Rat? And there have been a lot of, I don't want to get like too much into the decision, but I would just say like there was an early data mining thing that was very confident that Rat was coming, I don't know, like August of last year. I'm just around then. And since then, there's definitely been a swell of people who really want Rat to come. On the surveys from all of our previous old historical internal data, Rat is definitely a very highly requested jungler and not somebody that we're ignoring by any means. But I think we felt like Neja was the right character for this slot in terms of his impact on all the different departments. And also just, again, he is slightly more popular based on the data that we have. And he has a little bit more of a playstyle you can't get anywhere else from our current roster, I would say.
Yeah, Rat probably would have been done earlier with some of the information we got updated, but also Rat has some unique needs that he has that other characters don't. And when we're looking at the God pipeline, you're balancing all the different roles and who's current. Like some roles might have a lot less bandwidth during that specific patch than others. So it's like you got to make sure that it makes sense each time you implement it. So like I feel like largely the assassins we brought over have all been like pretty popular, pretty in demand. They're all kind of fighting for a similar slot.
How do I feel about data miners? And do I think it comes from inside? The data mining is coming from inside the building. No, it's not coming from inside the building. We have an idea of who the data miners in the community are. We are capable of doing things to obfuscate what we are doing. Those things take time, and it feels like a waste of time for us right now to spend the effort to obfuscate what, the things that we are working on, when we could just get more stuff done.
Yeah, I think in general we would prefer things don't get data mined, but we also obviously, like if it was like a really big pain point for us, we could block it if we wanted to. So the fact that we don't means that like, yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's what it is. I think the only time like it ever really like bothers us in any meaningful way is like if there's something in there that's been interpreted incorrectly.
Yes.
And even though there are often a lot of warnings on that site saying like, hey, like this is all has not been confirmed at all. There are warnings there. Some people take that as gospel and then just run with it. And it's those people who end up being disappointed about something we've never promised, where it's like, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it's tough to manage expectations when, there's something out there that's saying, this is what it's going to be. Even if, like you said, there are these caveats. So it's tough when the community really believes that something's going to happen, like the Ratatosker data mining that seemed very confident at the time, when we hadn't really done too much work on our side. At least design, I don't think had done anything.
It was a fur test.
Yeah. Okay. We tested the fur.
Yeah, he was just a fur test. That's why he was in so early. He was a fur test.
Yeah. So again, there are things that can lead to different expectations that don't necessarily line up with reality, and that's when things go wrong. Otherwise, it is what it is. Can we put in a single line of code that says Fenrir XD to give you hopium? It's a decent skin. I don't know if it'll be top of the list, but it's a good skin. One word clumsy teaser for the next god after Neja. I guess the next one will be a clumsy god. Yeah. I don't think we're going to tease it right now because I think we'll focus on those two right now. But it is interesting. I love the Pantheon event, and I have got all of the corresponding gods. Any chance we get the rest in the future? Maybe some point in the future. We just didn't go back and update the event this time because we've been working on some other stuff. We just thought it would be fun to turn it back on for people that didn't get to complete it because it did only run for 2 weeks the first time, so we want to make sure people had a chance to come back to it.
Yep. I like the way someone's interpreted Clumsy's teaser.
Why didn't we go with more realistic hair for the models? Imagine what RTO would look like. So we've experimented with a lot of different styles of hair and fur in the game. There was an early on her test that was like very, very furry.
Yeah.
But what we settled on, the art style for Smite is interesting, right? Because we're trying to be a little bit stylized and not like 100% chasing realism.
Yeah.
The initial Smite 2 art style was pushing that more towards realism, but then that made the game harder to read and players just didn't like it as much. So we pushed it back a little bit more towards stylization. And what we're trying to do is have like fur and hair that reads as more detailed, as feeling better than Smite 1. But when we went with the actual like hair or fur cards, it got more noisy and hard to read again, and we just didn't feel like it was the right fit for the art style that we were going for. So it's not a thing that we couldn't do. I think we have one piece of it in the game with I think Herc's shoulder was from back when we were experimenting with that. But probably not something that we're going to be doing in the future.
Yeah, and I think there have been a few cases where we've been able to go back and like, it's one of those things where like over time we learn what we can do and how we can adjust these models. I think Tsukiyomi's hair in particular was a good example of like that hair getting updated in a way that like fit our style but looked really, really slick. It's one of those things. The other tough thing is like characters that are like all fur are a very uniquely different challenge than just characters with like their head on their hair. And they take a lot more effort to like make sure that they look nice and stylized, and because it's like the full body and like especially as like bare RTO, she's moving around a lot, making sure that hair looks right while moving is also a unique challenge. So it's tough. Artists are crazy.
Yeah, I am not at all an artist, so I'm always very impressed with what they do. Were the research results favorable to non-human gods? I will say, as far as I have seen, things have lined up with my general expectations on that front, where, there's obviously a few outliers always that are more or less popular than you expected them to be. But generally speaking, humanoid characters tend to be played the most and requested the most. It doesn't mean that more monstrous characters don't have a role in the game. We like to have a mix of things. There's a reason why our roster is large and diverse. But if we were to solely judge by popularity, most all the top most requested ones would be humanoid.
Someone mentioned about like a trolling and ranked queue where they changed their role to fill. They shouldn't be able to change their role at all. So that sounds more like actually a bug. I do feel like there's been a few notes about people saying that like we don't report or care about role evasion because we want everyone to be able to play anywhere. And role evasion is definitely considered trolling the game, and I would say is reportable.
Yep.
Maybe we just need an option there to make that more obvious. But like if you are assigned a role, you are supposed to play that role.
Yeah.
And you can play a lot of ways to like you can play kind of like the enchanter style of support, and I think that's valid.
That's fine.
But if you're just gonna play run it down, do a lane as damage and full damage and not contribute anything meaningfully in the support role, then you're not playing support, right? Anything challenging from the art of design side of Kyron? Are you talking about design as in the like gameplay design team in like how the kit functions? Or are you talking about art design? Because the way you said art design, I'm actually confused. I need that question clarified. Any plans to make Daybreak Gavel or Stygian Anchor apply those effects more consistently? Shablanki branching odds don't apply Stygian, certain healing abilities don't apply Daybreak effects. Yeah, there's a few things we need to go back and do because the way we implemented some things don't lend themselves easily for other item design. Like, so for example, passives that trigger a heal, or like let's say there's an ability that triggers a heal. An easy way to make that heal happen if you need like a listener for it is to put it on the passive. So the passive is a constantly active ability that can listen for events. But that means the heal came from the passive, and if a passive is going to count as an ability or not is often very, very weird and very, very different. Some of that you can fix by just making sure that like the thing that gets attributed is properly set up. In other cases, you probably have to go back and rework to give the ability like a new listener, and essentially remake that part of the kit. We've tried to clean up some cases where that's been really bad, but it's one of those things that like we have to kind of keep slowly fixing them over time.
How are we? I feel like we answered this question a lot of shows, but how are you feeling about anti-heal, and where we are on all that?
Yeah, I think overall it's pretty good. I think lifesteal is still a little bit of an outlier. We have a few more nerfs coming in the next patch, still some lifesteal. Well, actually more strength lifesteal. There's a few inside lifesteal items that are going to get a little bit of a buff, but it's more of a shift in that direction. And it'd be nice to be able to get like that really locked down the same way that we got a healing ability locked down. I think the only other thing that we're going to be looking at going forward is if other modes need additional adjustments. So for example, assault is like you're always grouped up as 5. It's common for you to sit behind a tower line to heal up and group up and stay healed. Assault probably needs additional rules or some adjustments there. I also think there's room for items to bring back 25% anti-heal that doesn't stack with God anti-heal. Like as a way of like, hey, I didn't draft an anti-heal effect, I can bring this into the game. I think that's reasonable too. When we get to those items, I'm not quite sure, but like I think that's a reasonable place to kind of end up and largely be at a stable spot for anti-heal.
Do we think it is bad for how easy it is for people to change their in-game names? It makes troll names more common. So I will say, if you see names that are inappropriate for the game, please do report them. We can and do ban people for having inappropriate names. Just because Steam says it's an okay name doesn't mean that it is acceptable for our terms of service. That said, I think that there are pros and cons of the SMITE 2 approach of we use your platform name directly. One of the pros is that when you see somebody's name, you know that that's their name on Steam, and you can go find them on Steam, and it's easier, right? But one of the negatives is, yeah, sometimes we get some weird names as a result.
Yeah.
Also, I guess we technically don't make money off of selling name changes anymore on PC, but it's a relatively minor one. I think that our system is built around this being the way it works. I don't think it's going to change. I would just say, if you see names that are offensive, please let us know, and we will take action until people change their names if they want to play again.
I think someone asked a question trying to bait you with the Super Bowl. But
they always do.
But I'll answer it because I think it's interesting. Can we get a live design and aspect Titan talk with a dev designer there where the community mocks up a future aspect? It'd be interesting. It's kind of like the Design of God panel, but I almost feel like it should be done that way in regards to like, here's a theoretical God.
Yeah.
Or here's a God we know we're not going to do for a long time, and we can discuss the aspect there. Because I think one thing that's really hard to convey, and that's why we didn't do this when we did Design of God panels, where we didn't do a God that we thought we were going to do. It's a lot more fun to go through that design exercise and walk through it all when you don't actually have to make it.
Yeah.
And when you actually have to make it, you have to start being a lot more strict about like what you can or can't get away with. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things that are like 50-50 on that line. And when you can just easily say, yeah, actually, no, let's just explore that. Let's explore that direction because we think it might be possible. But when we actually have to sit down and make this for real, we have to like really consider if the art team can reasonably support this. We have to see like sound effects. We have to see if that's going to add confusion. Specifics about how like the abilities flow now gets into a question mark. That often happens. So it's one of those things where it's like, it probably wouldn't be to design an actual aspect in the game because just coordinating that and making it feasible, like it's just not really feasible. But doing that as like a design exercise, like a Design of God panel, that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. That'd be a fun mix-up show.
Yeah.
How do we feel about having a time slot for 5-man ranked on weekends? So, I mean, this is something that we could theoretically do. There's a little bit of work to set it up, as there is with anything. Something we could theoretically do, but always a challenge to get people to organize themselves into 5-man groups, and then for us to matchmake those 5-man groups intelligently with very limited data about them other than how the people perform individually, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that we had talked about doing previously was doing more of a special competitive ranked period that occurred regularly, that you had to kind of qualify to play in or something. I would expect that true 5-man ranked queue would not fire mini matches in most regions, and even in our most popular regions. I don't think too many full 5 stacks would really queue for that. But I think that, like, if you are interested in playing competitive, there are a lot of tournaments that we support. If Hinderman was here, he could tell you what their names are, but I don't remember right now. But there's a lot of community tournaments that we support with diamond prizing. There's Smite Prime, which has cash prizing, and there's things that you can play in that are probably a better outlet for, I have a stack of 5 friends and we want to play competitively, than for us to turn on a 5-man ranked queue for an hour, because I just think there's other outlets for you for that.
Yeah, and someone simply asked, like, there's the in-game solo tournament that was planned a while ago, and like I know there's some work being done behind the scenes to like support that style of queue as well. But again, that requires a lot of feature support. It requires a lot of UI support. It also, like, there's a lot of things that are there that had to be tuned over time that, like, I've been doing some matchmaking adjustments, and I can tell you that, like, I probably would not have the skill set to actually make that a good experience for everyone. So it's one of those things where, like, maybe in the future we can investigate some of those things, but, like, especially in the short term, I think the keeping our core focus on, like, the core experiences, the core modes, the things that we know a lot of people are going to engage in, it's just a better use of our time in the short run.
How do you feel about Charon's coin as an item? It's a classic item. I think it's actually off in Smite 1 forever now, because there was
there's a
game-breaking issue with it. So,
as an item effect, I think it's overall interesting. I think the flavor of the coin flip, like, I like when we can get
that was fun. Yeah,
like the flavor of that is just very cool, and I like items that have a lot of flavor. The actual effects itself, I think, are reasonable. Like, it's not the craziest item ever, but it's fun.
Yeah,
I think the item does a lot better because the theming of it's cool.
Magical power, 75 magical power, 20% magical pen, 7 MP5, 20 or 7 HP5, 20 MP5, and then the coin flip. If it's heads, you got a stack of 7 HP5. If it was tails, you got a stack of 2% movement speed. Each effect could stack 4 times, and at 8 stacks it evolved, and you also got 15 gold every time the coin was flipped.
Yeah,
that was that item. How do we feel about Lash? Because I feel like people just this is the conversation that never ends.
So Lash, the nerfs actually did a lot.
Okay.
We saw the win rate drop. We saw the usage rate drop.
Nice.
It's still popular, but we're starting to see some other things rise to compete against it. But I do think I would like it to be more nerfed than we saw. Like, I was hoping that would be a little bit bigger than we saw. So next patch does have a nerf to it. We're removing the lifesteal on the active effect, which will also nerf the damage of it, because that scales off the damage. So like, that'll be another pretty big nerf to it. It more directly targets the active portion of it. That should help. Like, I think it's still, like, the fact that we're starting to see some other things see success outside of it means that we're getting very close.
Okay. Can we ever do a show going step by step on how a god is ported and what fully goes into it, like as a PowerPoint? Yeah, I think that could be fun. We could probably go through that at some point.
You could have the pawn stream where I try and develop a thing and you can watch all the blueprint logic explode.
Yeah, that sounds fun. There's always more than you would think of.
Yeah.
And there's things that you think will be easy are frequently hard, and things that you think will be hard are sometimes easy.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to think if there's a good example on Naja, like, recently. Actually, I think I have a good one. So Naja ult, I got a first pass working on that, and it largely actually worked fine in playtest. But, like, there's a part of the ult where, like, when Naja would come back, Naja would face the camera. And then looking into that, I found another bug where, like, the timing wasn't quite right on something. And that led to a cavalcade of things that I needed to figure out. only to then realize that my animations weren't playing on server. So other people wouldn't see Naja animating correctly. When I fixed that, I stopped seeing it on client where it broke half the time, so I had to go fix that. And so just getting Naja ult to respect the animation pacing. And then I went and looked at Smite 1's code only to find out, like, okay, the animations aren't syncing up here, but I know for a fact I'm timing everything correctly. And Smite 1 rate scaled every single individual part of the animation depending on an arbitrary timer that it had inside of it that was unrelated to anything in the GCT. So you get, like... You'll start something and you'll be like, okay, I think I understand all the pieces. And by the end of it, you're like, oh, we've done some terrible things. And we just try and make it work.
Yep.
Frame analysis is definitely the thing. Like, often if I ever like don't look too closely at the frame data, it always comes back to bite me. And I just go like, I should have just literally recorded this and just, I should have just done the math myself to figure out when all these things happen versus relying on the GCT, because the GCT, which is our internal database for Smite 1, drives a lot of the logic. It doesn't drive everything, and it will tell you that it's driving it, and it's just lying.
Someone is asking about DKO2, and I would say probably not happening anytime soon. DKO1 was not, unfortunately, not a success. Probably not something we'll be coming back to. I enjoyed DKO, but unfortunately, it did not perform.
A port diary would be great. Yeah, like it's you should see like the comments we have on Confluence is what we use to like keep track of like our GDDs, like so that other department, like I'll try and put all the timing in there so all the other departments can see like and make sure that like they have their stuff working as well. And you'll see some of my notes there where I just like there's like a section for like design notes that I have, and it'll just be me being like, what the hell is this number? Like I can't figure out what this number is. And then like I'll come back like 2 weeks later, be like, I found out what this number is. It's actually unrelated to this ability. It was actually being used over here. And then like 2 weeks later, be like, nope, that was wrong. There's a INI file that was actually overriding it. But if you were playing on local, it doesn't work this way. And if you're playing on network, it does work this way. So you have different behavior in Smite 1 on local versus in an actual real match. All those GDDs are like very fun of just me complaining to myself.
Who would be more difficult to port, Olorun or Bake Kujira? In parentheses, I love Bake. I think that the hardest part of both of them is time dilation, right? So if you were to change either of their ultimates, they would both be fairly easy. But because they have time dilation ultimates, they are both on the harder side of things. Time dilation is just a tech that we don't have yet in Smite 2. We started Smite 2 with no tech, and we've been building it out slowly. But that's just something we don't have. So I don't think that there's one that's substantially harder than the other. It's mostly just, hey, we don't have time dilation, so eventually...
Yeah, I think Bake would be easier just in general, but like, again, it's 95% time die. After that, both of them are pretty comparable. Olorun, I think, has a little bit more going on artistically, like especially the ult with the side visions that go out. Like there's a lot of like other additional visual things I think Olorun does, which would make him harder. I see someone asking for a lot of different gods, but the one that keeps popping up is Sedna, and I haven't seen that name in literally forever because that's a demigod character.
Oh, okay.
And anytime I get to bring up demigod, I will bring up demigod.
Okay.
She was writing like an Ice Panther, and her whole gimmick was that she had like one of the few silences in the game. And in that game you could there's a thing that let you recall, and there was a character that had a literal immunity to any effect, and so they could just buy a scroll for 50 gold, very cheap, and if they ever got in trouble, they'd pop their immunity and recall back to base. They'd null Hearth. It was great, and Sedna could stop it.
Very cool. How is I will talk about this briefly because there have been a number of people that are asking about pet characters. We've talked about how there's a stack of tech that we need to build out to enable pet characters. I will say in the background, pet tech is something that we are working on because there are a lot of pet characters still on the list of characters to do. That's not me saying that we're going to get a pet character soon, but it is saying that like we need to start laying the tech groundwork to be able to get pet characters. So, start fantasizing about your favorite pet character, and maybe they'll come eventually.
I saw someone ask about CC buffering. I have an idea that is interesting that seems like that could be a good middle ground. I guess would it be interesting just to get opinions on it?
Yeah, let's just freestyle.
So I did talk to Jordan about this. Sorry, Jordan. He said it seemed reasonable. So again, this is one of those things where like I just poked the idea out there just to see if programming would shut it down immediately. They didn't. There might be other reasons we can't do this. So, but yeah, we see the face.
We see the frowny face.
So the idea would be, so here's the thing about CC buffering is it was all or nothing. Either the whole ability was going to be buffered or we're not going to do any buffering. And that means that if we go to the CC buffering world, you have all the downsides of you watch a character get stunned, their whole animation goes off, and then they get stunned, and there's disconnection between the stun and all that stuff. It does mean that if you are on lower latency or if you're just like trying to get your ability off and you get the final sound effect and then it just gets interrupted, that doesn't happen anymore. If you go the no CC buffering route, you have all those things, but everything is responsive. Everything, like if you get interrupted, everyone else on every other client will see that you got interrupted before you reach the phase and it'll all look correct. One version of that could be interesting is what if we just said, if you are CC'd within the last 2 to 3 server ticks of the CC, of like you'd actually be able to fire this ability, we let that be buffered. And if we reject that, if you're outside that window, we actually pop up like an interrupt text. So you actually get some feedback that, no, the server actually decided that you didn't get to cast this off because you were interrupted, you were CC'd. So you get feedback when it fails because we intended it to fail.
Yeah.
And if you were very, very close and other clients saw you were very, very close, we let it go through. That's one of those things that might be the middle ground that makes a lot of people happy, and it largely addresses kind of both sides of the issue.
Yeah.
But I was talking to the ambassadors, and the way I described it is like you could be like a pasta sauce factory, and you could be making you have like your group of like 50% of your people who like spicy pasta sauce, and the other half hate it.
Yeah.
And if you make a not very spicy pasta sauce, you've made both groups unhappy.
It's also possible.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just gonna make everyone unhappy, but I do feel like that's like if we were to try doing another version of CC buffering, I'd like to try that version. Otherwise, we probably just leave CC buffering off because that's SMITE 1. It seems like it's really 50-50
It seems to be very 50-50
about whether people like it. We're seeing similar noise from like people who really liked it. Now it's being gone compared to when it was on. We saw people who wanted it to be gone were being vocal. Like it really does seem like a 50-50. So can we find a better version that makes more people happy? And if so, we can move that direction. Otherwise, we'll probably keep it off.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good idea.
Now we have to see if that's actually doable. And then if that actually feels good.
There was a question about, at one point in time, we had talked about the possibility of community mod support in SMITE 2. Has anything changed since then? I think the last time we talked about it, we said it's something that we would like to do, but it's a lot of work, and we don't have a firm plan for it. It's something we've talked about a lot, but it would be a distant future thing. And I think we're still in the realm of it would be a distant future thing if we ever had more community mod support. We were talking to some guys at, I want to say Mod.io is the name of it. But there was a group that has like kind of some middleware that makes it easier to manage community mods. But there's a lot of back-end stuff on the way the game is built that would need to change to support those mods. So I would say not anytime soon. It's one of those maybe distant future things.
I see someone asking a question about like the changing god parties mean you're not getting a support for a while. I don't think that that's not necessarily what that means. I think generally supports are less popular, but that doesn't mean that like the gods that are, especially the more immediate gods coming, don't have a support on there. There's definitely a lot of support characters that people really, really like, and so I wouldn't say that you're automatically excluded.
I think this is probably wrong, so I shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I want to say like the lowest average score was actually like the Assassins as a group.
Yeah.
But that could be wrong. But I think that that's correct.
That makes sense, and that also maps onto like there's like one kind of long-standing SMITE problem, which is Assassins outside of Conquest.
Oh
Assassins are very much made to function as like the jungle gank role, and when you go into a mode where everyone's 5v5 staring at each other and there's not really great paths for you to sneak around and do your assassin thing, you struggle a lot more, which
for sure
makes sense. That's really like the worst case scenario for you. So like Assassins outside of Conquest tend to be less popular and less successful.
Are there any plans to address the vision difference between action cam and normal cam? It sucks watching teammates die to things they can't see coming. So I believe when we first did action cam, normal cam, we looked at kind of how things were going, and we didn't see a marked difference in how players were performing with the different cameras. If we had seen that one of them was a strong, you're going to just die a lot more and it's going to be a worse experience for you, we would probably reconsider it.
Yeah.
But I think that certainly you have a different field of view. But what we have seen, and the reason why numerically it has performed better for new players so far, is it does help you focus more on the things that are in front of you. So sure, maybe you don't see the things that are out here as much, but you do really get to pay attention to the thing in front of you, which can matter more for new players who are just overwhelmed when they see too much. So obviously you can change to classic cam. A lot of people play on classic cam, but yeah. And you have more thoughts on it, I'm sure.
Yeah. I think there's some room for some improvements on it, but I think overall those are largely correct, right? Like a new player coming to the game has different needs and things that are going to be detrimental to their experience than veterans. I kind of view like there's a lot of there's a lot of other PvP games. The one that I always use WoW as my reference point. Mm-hmm. Like WoW feels better when you're kind of zoomed in on your character and you're just watching your character do the stuff, and that feels nice. And like especially if you're just starting out, you're just kind of focused on the things in front of you. By the time you're a veteran to the game and you're kind of in their seasonal rotation, you've run the console script to extend the max zoom duration out to maximum, and you're fully zoomed out all the time because you want to see all the things that are going on around you. I think people would generally over time choose the level of like vision that they care to enjoy, and then they will fall kind of naturally to wherever they are going to fall in regards to like skill level and like if that's actually hurting their experience or not, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think it's worth making sure that like that introductory experience is there, so they want to stick around and play Smite for the long term is a much better win, especially when at any point they can just opt out.
Yep. I saw somebody saying that we should have a pop-up at the beginning of starting to play Smite saying, here are the two camera angles, which one do you want to use? And that is something that we have talked about and we will certainly add at some point, but it just hasn't risen to the top of the UI priority stack right now.
Can I say it removes the confirmability recent out? I assume that's the pop-up. I thought we had an option.
There is something that, it's under, there is something in the settings that you can turn that off.
Someone's asking about raw input, and I do not know what that is.
I don't either. I'm sorry.
You're going to have to be more specific on the question.
Is it, you just have to balk at it? Balk, 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 balk. It's a joke about the chicken god. Anyway.
It's okay. Any chance Slash coming back? We can revisit some old hits.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have Slash back in the game at some point. Unfortunately, not a very popular mode. Right now, our resources are going towards let's make our core modes that were always the popular ones as good as we can make them.
Yeah.
Before we start adding more stuff.
Yeah, you have to make sure that also there's a good population for each queue.
Yes.
There's a lot of different ways to accomplish that. But yeah, like it would just be a lot of time spent away from improving the core modes to get a mode in that largely at this point would like it probably wouldn't be a super. It'd be like there'd be a rough experience. I don't think it would launch super smooth because like it would take us a lot to get it out there, and then we'd find that there's some issues with it and we have to resolve it. So that's one part. But like the other part is now we're just making all the other queues, like however much it is successful and siphons away from the other queues, means that those queues are that much weaker for it. Like it's probably worth just really focusing on the core. I do think there's a world where eventually like you get to a point where like Slash coming back makes a lot of sense. It's just I don't think that's right now.
And there's a question of, would it not be potentially better to provide as good a pipeline to conquest competency as possible for the general health of the game/population? I would say competitive players would probably be interested to learn that whenever we have pulled the data on this, our players do not really, a very small percentage of our players really specialize in a single game mode.
Yeah.
Most players bounce around and play every game mode. They'll go through maybe a spell of I play Arena for a week, and then I play Joust for a week, and then I play Conquest for a week, or they play, all the modes in a day. The percentage of players that are just Conquest players on Smite 1, on Smite 2, has always been a small percentage of our population. So we aren't trying to railroad people into just being Conquest players. we want you to be a SMITE player and be part of the SMITE community, whatever mode you're having fun with that day. And if you don't want the super hardcore, version of the game, which is Conquest, then you can play Arena. If you don't want to play the team deathmatch mode, you can play, Joust or something. Like there are these different modes so that you can play the game no matter what mood you're in.
Yeah, and I think there is some truth to, if you do play Conquest, you generally are a more retaining player. You stick around. But that doesn't mean that you only play Conquest. And it also doesn't mean that this is like the kind of like, you run into these data fallacies a lot, right? Like, okay, our most retaining players are people who play Conquest. So therefore, everyone should just launch into Conquest. And then suddenly you have a whole bunch of people come in and bounce off the mode and never stick around. The people who generally go to Conquest are the people who have decided to stick around with the game for a long time. And Conquest is the one that kind of scratches the super high depth part of like sticking around for a really, really long time. And so you play that every so often within your other modes. And that's more of an indicator of a player who has become a veteran more than makes a new player coming in successfully convert to a veteran.
Yeah.
It's often better to let people get their footing on the game and kind of explore themselves, a game that has this much depth, and then kind of find themselves wherever they like to be. That tends to work out better than trying to no, you have to be a Conquest player because we know that those players are the ones that retain the longest.
Yeah, our worst retention experiment that we have run on SMITE 2 was when we tried to force people directly into Conquest. Because right now you do kind of the tutorial in Arena, and then you're suggested to play Joust.
Yeah.
Is the way that we currently have it set up. But when we tried to just say, let's see what happens if people just go straight to Conquest, very bad experience. Why would we want people that don't play Conquest? Because they're having fun playing the game, dude. You don't have to play Conquest to play SMITE.
And again, most people will play multiple modes.
Yeah.
Like even people who don't play Conquest do dabble into Conquest, and that's why we offer a variety of modes, because that just works really well for our game.
How would you feel about a gold steel item and or ability? Or I can throw Gil to deal damage.
Yeah, so I answered this before. It's basically I'm very scared to just anything economy related. It probably would not be on an item, because I think on an item it had to be like the Karen coin level, where it's like that's more for flavor than actually anything meaningful. Because if it becomes a meaningful part of the loop, if it's ever good enough to be treated seriously, it's probably going to be the default route. Like in League way back in the day, I played a Moo jungle, which went 3 GP5 items, because I just had so much good gank pressure from stun, and I just got GP5 that by 20 minutes into the match, I was this unstoppable tank that would just be able to run down everything, right? GP5 was just incredibly strong. We had a meta where we had Benevolence gave some GP5, and overnight the game became 5v5 Benevolence, right? Gold is just one of those things that messing with is very scary. I think if we do it, it would have to be on a God-specific level, and they'd have to have a lot of unique rules around them to make it work. I think we actually did try something like that on Fafnir, and we reined it back pretty significantly on Fafnir overall, because, again, messing with economy is just terrifying. But I think either your game has to function very, very differently, where the way characters scale isn't directly tied to gold, or you'd have to do it where it's a God-specific loop that is very unique.
Somebody asked, is the new player retention better on Joust compared to Arena? Because we said we send people to Joust instead of Arena. I would say, based on the data we have, it's very close. It's hard to tell which one's better, because there's always just a certain amount of noise in the data by what players are joining in a given day. But our general consensus right now is that it seems like Joust is about the same at the beginning and maybe has a slight positive benefit further down your retention. But it's so close that it's hard to really say.
Someone mentioned the 20 God own message. Yeah, so we investigated this. There's a case where you can get blocked from queuing ranked based off some messages that don't make sense because you meet the requirement that's there. We know about it. We have people looking at it. It seems to be a bit more involved than just a simple fix, but we are looking at it. If you keep looking at the page, if you leave and come back or try other queues and come back, sometimes it fixes it, so it's kind of the workaround. Some accounts seem to get it worse than others, because I know some accounts don't even report that this happens. But we do see where it could be failing, and we do have people looking at it. I think there's a 100-person Slack thread or comment Slack thread talking about it.
Did we break up with Alani? No, I'm drinking an Alani right now. This is a Breezeberry Alani.
Ooh, that's new.
Yeah, it's good. Flavor. It's kind of like blue raspberry.
Yeah. I've had too much caffeine today.
Yeah. I have not. I went to sleep early and woke up late from vacation. So somebody in chat just had a pink slush Alani, orange Alani, a lot of Alani chat. Is it easier for someone to port over a god if they originally worked on them in Smite
1? Probably. I'd say yeah. The problem you run into is like there's a lot of ownership of like feel that's there. Like I definitely try to claim characters that I've worked on in the past because like I remember working on them, and so I kind of remember some of the nuance of the why we did some things. And that makes it especially easy as you go into like the +1s. Like you have a better sense of kind of like what you feel like is super important or was like super critical we got right. There's a lot more learning you have to do when it's like a god that you weren't originally involved in, or especially one like I think it's actually the hardest is when you don't play that character that much. Like I played Naja quite a bit, so like I'm familiar with Naja. I'm familiar with like how things should feel. Been able to pick up on things when things didn't feel right, and I could go fix them. But like if I'm playing a character I haven't really played that much, like Newt was interesting because Newt came out a lot later. I'd already moved on to doing some other stuff, so I also wasn't playing as much when Newt was released. So I had to actually go do quite a lot of learning about how Newt functioned, even at a core level, before I could really start working on her.
Are the new ranked rewards going to be shown soon? So this ranked reset is going to be updating the previous set of frames to reflect your maximum rank achieved during the year. So this is not a new set of rewards. This is updating the frames, and then I believe we'll have more things coming after that.
I don't think we've actually announced when the ranked reset's coming.
We said it's coming in the next update, or we were targeting the next update at least. So.
I'm trying to remember the timeline. I guess, yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
We figured out the details of it. I'm sure we'll make that public at some point, but we did lock down details of what the reset's going to be. I can confirm it's not it's not a full reset. It's not everyone going back to 0.
Yeah.
But I think it is a more intense reset than we've done in the past.
It's Disco Aspect live. It should be. It should have gone live today. I know we delayed it. So hopefully. That's unfortunate. We need a full reset. So historically, when we actually do a full reset, what we have found more than anything else is that it leads to bad matchmaking for a month.
Yeah.
So the goal, I believe, with this one is to have a similar effect where people are brought down pretty substantially, but there's at least a little bit of retained memory about how much progress, like how good of a player you are, right? Focusing less on the progress and more about just like, what is your behind the scenes skill, so that it's not just everybody has horrible matchmaking for a month until it sorts itself out again.
Yeah.
Because like historically we have decent player numbers at this time of year, and then we reset everybody's rank and everybody's like, matchmaking sucks. What the hell did you do? Right? It's like, why are we intentionally kneecapping ourselves by making the matchmaking horrible for a month? Like,
yeah, I think you do it largely when there's enough of a change that just the overwhelming hype of it is going to outweigh stuff. And like, also there's enough new things that's probably reasonable to expect that like there could be like, there's some the extra value there. Even then, like, I think you could go like, if like the previous resets have been like 40% reset, and like the next one we do is like a 70% reset. Yeah. You could always do like a 90 to 95% reset. And even that little bit of preservation goes a long way in making sure that like matches aren't like absolutely terrible at launch.
Yep.
Do you think it'd be beneficial for the game to separate true random assault queue? That splits the player base too much. Like the true assault versus like true random assault versus the like assault that we currently have that has like some healer rules and the bench. It's almost certainly better to just have the one assault queue.
Is Wandering Path resetting soon? I believe that's also resetting next patch.
Was the Smite 1 match system good? It made you play 10 games before a set rank. The way that worked was actually it made you play 10 games before it told you what the rank was. And that was because like Smite 1, the way it worked is true skill basically treats you as an average player when it first starts, because an average ranking is the best guess it can make, right? You're a new player coming in with no information. By definition, you're most likely to be average. And it quickly moves you. And so if we let that be visible, that kind of movement be visible, you'd see wild swings and it'd be really confusing, when really it's just trying to dial in where you belong. But after 10 matches, it's gotten a lot closer to where it should be. And so at that point we showed you, that's how Smite 1's worked. Smite 2 takes a very different approach, where like everyone basically does start at 0. And so there's stuff going on behind the scenes to kind of mitigate like how fast you move up and down based off how you're doing, but you do start at 0. So it just is a very different system. I think the starting at 0 just makes more intuitive sense, and it kind of also works with like the grind nature of what ranked is. So in that sense, I think that it's better for ranked specifically than the previous version.
There's a question that several of you have said was a great question, so I'll answer it. If we are not currently working on new Smite 2 gods, would we ever show off any of the progress we've made on gods and how far along they were or what issues they had? I would say no, because just because we are not actively working on new gods doesn't mean we are not going to loop back around to some of the in development gods. It doesn't mean that we will, but I think that we want to leave that door a little bit open, because there were some parts maybe we liked of them, some parts we didn't, and if we choose to start doing new gods again, maybe those are things that we pick up again. We have some other ideas. We're like, maybe that would be cool instead. But again, it's just kind of like, we don't want to lock ourselves into like, this is a thing that we're definitely not doing, or this is all the problems we had. And then we come back and we're like, and look at this new thing. And you're like, well, you already said you weren't doing that, or we already saw that. It's not as exciting.
Like without spoiling anything, I did some work on a kit, and we've talked about what it would look like if we were to do that kit, and would I do the same things that we previously discussed. And I already have some things I would want to try differently. So like the fact that like I already want different things, if we were to do that, makes me think that like showing it is just going to be like, it's going to set expectations in a way that I don't think is reasonable to set.
Have we ever considered making a god that played like Cho'Gall from HOTS and is played by 2 people? I'd say it's something that's come up as in brainstorming, but I don't know if it's anything we've ever been like seriously considered because of the number of issues around it.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues with it. It's a lot of tech debt that we'd be going on in the future. There's a lot of things that we'd have to do to get it working correctly. Like, it's cool. I do think that's I think that's the thing it has going for it, is like, as a like concept, it sounds really, really, really cool. But actually, for the long term of the game, it's probably like, I'd be really interested to know how Cho'Gall overall performed as like a character. My guess would be that it isn't super popular of a character, and over the long term had some issues. But like, I really don't know. It is a really interesting concept though. Like especially like having specific Q rules with it. Like, there's some really cool things about that character.
Is it true that role priority is the same for role number 1 and number 2? Is there any chance you can make one higher priority than number 2 if true? My understanding is that 1 is higher priority.
Yeah, it is.
But the system really does its best to get you one of your top 2 roles. It's basically like 1 and 2 are significantly higher than 3, 4, 5 is probably the best way to look at it. But 1 is higher priority. It tries to give you your number 1 role. Sometimes it doesn't, but you do end up with one of your top 2 priority roles a lot more often than you did in Smite 1.
Yeah, I know Max ran data back in the day, and you actually got your top roll pretty reliably. Much more reliably than Smite 1. It can't be perfect, right? Because just the way that like
different people queue for different roles at different amounts, right? Like, we know that support is one of the least queued for roles.
Yeah, and if you try to enforce it too hard, you drastically hurt queue times, and you drastically hurt matchmaking quality. So the fact that like it does as well as it does, given how little impact it has on those, is like already like really impressive. Someone's asking how pumped I am for the next character. I assume we talked about the one I'm working on afterwards, and I'm not gonna say, because if I'm super, super, super amped, then it implies that it's a character I've worked on before, and if I say I'm not super amped, it implies that it wasn't one. So you don't get information that way.
Are we planning to transfer old tier 5 skins at some point? Not currently on the schedule. we've talked at some points about maybe we bring back a form of the tier 5s as a classic skin, but even that, there can be a lot of extra that's tied to it. Maybe it's something that happens in the future, but it's not something that we are planning. Oh, it's 2:00.
It is 2:00.
Oh, it's time for one more question. Thanks for going easy on me today, chat. In my first day back from vacation, when I've been here for a few hours and still getting caught up on things. Come back on Wednesday, because Wednesday will be an awesome patch note show with a lot of stuff to go through. We've got Chiron, we've got a lot of other stuff, and you will learn more about the deal that might get me fired on Wednesday. Somebody in the chat asked me, Kilgoon, what is the deal that might get you fired?
What? Oh, yeah, I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, so, you'll learn more on Wednesday. So if you want to learn more about the deal that might get me fired, tune in. I feel like a radio host. It's a good teaser. And then on Friday, we'll go through the full
balance
notes and all that. And I might be overemphasizing it, but I think that hopefully people will be like, this is a good deal, and it's something that, we makes sense to us. So, cool. We have final questions, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, I'm trying to find one that I think we haven't answered before in some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's one that's just it's worth saying is if SMITE 1 ever goes offline, would you guys do the work to make it local? It's just so far off from the idea of SMITE 1 shutting down. As long as there's people playing it, and it seems like it's going to have a long tail in front of it. So it just here's the thing. I was talking to someone the other day about a personal life thing, and they were trying to plan 10 years in the future. And my first thought was, I have no idea where I'm going to be 6 months from now, because things just move so fast all the time. Especially having a kid, has drastically changed my outlook on things, right? Mm-hmm. So planning for that far, I can't even begin to quantify what that looks like. That's where I go with that question.
Yeah, we don't have any plans to turn off the SMITE 1 servers. We're still, SMITE 1 is still a lot of people playing it, still making money. Not a thing that is really on our to-do list here.
Oh, someone said, Bond, don't leave us. I'm talking more about, for example, I didn't think I'd be working on matchmaking right now. Right?
Yeah.
That's a thing that, I was enabled to do that and went down, a rabbit hole of doing those things. And that's, a very interesting thing that I did not think would be part of my job description at all. That kind of stuff.
Baba Beans will never die. For people that have not logged into SMITE 1, we are eternally stuck on the Baba Yaga bean skin as the login screen, because that was the last patch that we did for SMITE.
And we didn't require a content patch.
Yes.
That's what stops it.
And we didn't know at the time that was going to be our last SMITE 1 patch before we all got spirited away to work on SMITE 2. So, unfortunate. I got to pick a question here. Will we add a curio in Assault that is anti-heal and either of some percentage, and also add Amanita Charm Pack? I would say probably not. I think that there is in my opinion, I'm not a designer. In my opinion, there is an argument that you could do kind of a global anti-heal debuff in Assault, similar to other games have a similar thing in ARAM modes. And maybe then you could also re-enable some healing items like Amanita Charm. But I think that having a short-term curio to anti-heal that nobody's actually going to buy because everybody's just going to take meditate if that's still an option.
Yeah, the version of it I could think of is it's an offensive shot that if you hit someone with it, any healing they get replicates from you out to your team. So it becomes kind of a game of I'm going to hit you with this when you try to heal, and I'm going to and that could be interesting, but it does feel like a little bit of a weird arms race. I think a global rule plus or in addition to bringing back some 25% options, because especially in ARAM, you really literally don't have control whether you get an anti-heal god. Seems reasonable.
Unless we start adding anti-heal tiers too. So if one team gets in, no.
Yeah.
We've gone too far. Chat, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back on Wednesday. Please tune in. We got a lot of good stuff to cover on Wednesday. And then we're just not going to stop. We're just going to keep putting out stuff every 2 weeks because that's what we do. Have a great rest of the day, and we will see you on the battleground of the gods. Goodbye.